Well, let me first say thank you for having me here. And yeah, I mean, the very core of what we consider to be psychology and psychiatry today, in large part, grew out of a white supremacist patriarchy. And it was, well-intended people, but they designed a system, not just the system, when I say the system of community mental health or of healthcare in general, but also the system of what we believe about psychology and psychiatry. It was, and there are lots of people trying to do better by that today. I want to make sure that this isn't just an indictment of the mental health system, because most people who are practicing in community mental health today have been trained in trauma-informed care, which was not the case 20, 30 years ago. Many have been through some form of diversity training or sensitivity training, but it's not the same as having lived those experiences. When I think of mental health or mental illness, which I think are different, but also, come from the same basic premise about being balanced in some way psychologically. There certainly are people with serious chemical imbalances that result in them being psychotic and not even at times able to participate in society. And the answer to that has been medication. And there have been a lot of breakthroughs with that. And that's not usually the result of illness of injury. It's usually the result of an illness that no one has any control over. And medication to keep them safe from themselves and from others at times is necessary. But then you have people who have, as a result of just living in our society, that are labeled as mentally ill as a result of adapting to whatever trauma happened to them. Finding a balance in their mental health, I think, to me, is a respectful way to say, how do you get from here to where you want to be? I think diagnosing them as mentally ill is problematic. Yes, everyone's different. Every person is. It doesn't even mean that a white therapist and a white client are going to be the right match. But the system is rigged against BIPOC people, people of color. It's rigged against queer people. It's rigged to some degree against women. There are certain diagnoses that are handed out almost exclusively only to women. And men with the same exact symptoms are not given that diagnosis. And so there's bias all over in the system for that. I can give you a personal example. I was fired as an executive director from an organization after they found out I was married to a man. And I wasn't fired immediately. There was a lot of bullying that took place. And eventually I, stopped working there. I went to a straight therapist that was recommended by my insurance company for 16 sessions. And I felt about the same as when I started at the end of it, because I knew I had depression and anxiety symptoms. It was hard for me to do stuff I used to do just because of thoughts that were going through my head, because of physical reactions that I would have based upon the trauma that occurred to me. And I did get referred to a primary care physician who prescribed an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, which helped some. But I knew that really I was not medication wasn't the fix. I didn't have a chemical change in my body that suddenly, and except as the result of behavioral stuff. It wasn't that this just snuck up on me out of the blue and suddenly I was having panic attacks. This was the result of something that was traumatic for me. I ended up then going to a queer healing coach, and I did 16 sessions there. And not only do I no longer need the medication, I feel like my life is back on track. I didn't have to spend any time explaining to her what it was like to be me, because she knew when I walked in the door. She knew at least of similar experiences of similar people that have lived in a society that says you need to be straight and Christian and you're not supposed to be gay and you're not supposed to, all of those things.